From the Alvin and Rosalie Sarachek studio, PBS Kansas presents Empowering Seniors.
Welcome to the Empowering Seniors Show. I'm your host, Katherine Ambrose. Today, I'm so excited to introduce you to an inventor from the United Kingdom, Lewis Hornby from London. Lewis, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
So we're talking about your product, Jelly Drops, which help hydrate people that have dementia, primarily, but you found other uses as well. But it's a really interesting product. And you and I just met a couple of weeks ago in Orlando, Florida. I walked into an expo hall. There was the Jelly Drop table, and I thought, oh my gosh, I know this story. And so I was real excited to make this connection and then to have you follow me to Kansas to be on the show. So thank you so much for being here.
Well, it was great to meet you there. It was a fantastic event, and I definitely look forward to more events in line with that. But yeah, it's great to be in Kansas.
So you came from London to Orlando, Florida, and then you've been going all over the place talking about Jelly Drops. Tell us what benefits Jelly Drops has for people.
Yeah, so Jelly Drops are essentially 95% water. They're sugar-free treats designed to support hydration. Like you said, primarily for people living with dementia, but also many other people benefit from them. People with autism, learning difficulties perhaps, a whole host of reasons why people may struggle with dehydration. And in addition to the 95% water, they've got added electrolytes, which help boost the hydration, and vitamins to support overall health too. So really they're a fun, engaging way for people to independently support their own hydration needs.
Our show is about empowering seniors and their family and the senior industry. And so just talking about hydration and the personal interest story behind the Jelly Drops product, because what I'm really drawn to is the story of your grandmother, Grandma Pat. So tell us what happened with your grandma.
Yeah, so my grandma, I used to see a lot growing up. We were both up in the north of England, but she would come over and I would go and visit her quite often. But when I went to university, there were some early signs that perhaps she was developing dementia, and unfortunately was diagnosed with dementia in about my second year of university. I think there were some early indicators around perhaps people coming to her home and her being interested in buying stuff that maybe she wouldn't otherwise be in the past, garage doors, things like that. So those early sort of signals that led to a diagnosis ultimately, and it was about 5 years into her dementia that she started to struggle a lot with hydration and actually was hospitalised. They didn't realise it was dehydration until she was at hospital actually, but after 24 hours IV fluid she was back to her sort of normal happy self, and I was sort of shocked that something seemingly simple like hydration could end up in hospital basically.
Okay, so she was a homeowner and all of a sudden she started making kind of crazy purchases, and so your family's like, what is going on with Grandma Pat? And so those were some of the first signs. And then 5 years into it, she ends up moving into care home.
Yeah, so a few years was in her own home. She had support that would come and help her daily. Family members come over. We had some other products that sort of helped keep her independent in her own home, like a phone that would only accept known numbers, for example, things like that.
So she wasn't answering the phone for scammers.
Yeah. And fortunately, that all worked out well.
Okay.
But it reached a point where it was best for Grandma to have more round-the-clock support. So she moved into a care home, and generally the care was good. But it's very easy to fall short of drinking enough fluid, and you do that a few days in a row, and it can go downhill very fast, which is unfortunately what happened to Grandma.
And she went way downhill. Like the hospital, the doctor said, come say goodbye to Grandma Pat. She's not going to make it. And you guys were so scared, and you went to go see her, and then you found out later, after 24 hours of IV and hydration, she came back.
Yeah, it was quite shocking, really, that the turnaround. The people around her at that point were sort of indicating that this could be it. And people were, I have an uncle in Canada, and he was looking to come over as well, and very soon after that,
You're planning a funeral.
It was all fine. After being hydrated, it was she was back to her normal happy self and went on to enjoy a good quality of life for years after that. So
that's really good.
yeah, unfortunately, looking into it further, I realised that situation wasn't uncommon, and dehydration is a big source of hospitalisation for older adults. And if you are dehydrated, there's a whole host of knock-on effects. Delirium, sort of losing the ability to sort of look after yourself, UTIs, urinary tract infections, hospitalisation from falls, and delirium where people aren't able to really look after themselves properly. So yeah, it seems like a simple thing, staying hydrated, but it actually can have a huge impact on people's quality of life.
It is.
And when they thought maybe she only had 24 hours to live, what kind of state was she in?
Well, I didn't see my grandma when she was in that condition, but it was enough for her to be rushed to hospital. And thankfully, after getting there and being assessed for her hydration, they were able to put her on IV fluids. But that's it's quite an invasive process, and it's not something you would want to do very often. And it's a shame it got to that, but it was great that it had the impact it did, which basically brought her back to a happy self. So very thankful for that intervention and the swiftness in which they acted. But really, prevention is key when it comes to stuff like that.
And it sounds like that really impacted you, that you thought she was going to die, and then it's like, what, she just needs more water?
Yeah, I was shocked that, you sort of take it for granted that, maybe you find yourself thirsty now and then, and everyone knows hydration's important, but I didn't realise it could really end up like that and be potentially fatal. And just seeing the general degradation of quality of life that can result from sort of chronic dehydration also was, seemed like something that should be easy to fix. It's not. It's very challenging. There's a lot of challenges people with dementia face, especially. They maybe no longer feel thirst. They might not equate drinking with quenching thirst. They might not recognise cups or have the dexterity to pick them up. And when I would go and visit grandma and encourage her to drink, it's almost impossible to sit with someone if they don't really understand what you're trying to help them to do. It can be quite frustrating for them to constantly be prompted to drink, and it can be really challenging. With all the will in the world, it can be almost impossible sometimes to force someone. You can't force someone to drink. So finding a way that was engaging, that was intuitive, that allowed independence was what I was looking to do. And at the time, I was studying a course which gave me the opportunity to spend a lot more time with grandma and try and help.
Because you were at university, and what were you studying?
I was studying innovation design engineering, which is a postgraduate. I did civil engineering for my undergraduate. I wanted to do something a bit more creative with that. It gave me a great sort of foundation, no pun intended. But during that course, I really had sort of 2 years to work on anything that I really wanted to, and I had great resources at Imperial College London, at the Royal College of Art, and they gave me a 6-month project to basically do anything I like. So I went and took that opportunity to live in my grandma's care home for a month, and if nothing else, I thought it was a good excuse just to go and spend a bit more time with her. But through that process, sort of got a good understanding perhaps of the issues and maybe how they could be addressed.
So you moved into a care home as part of your postgraduate studies, because you had 6 months to work on a project, and so you thought, I'm just going to make Grandma Pat and getting her hydrated my project.
Basically, yeah, it was not too long after she'd been hospitalised, and I've only really got to see her in the holidays once the whole time during university. So I thought it was a good opportunity to go and see her more often. But I thought also what incredible sort of insight I could get from spending a lot of time in a care home like that, and that coupled with the course I was on, I thought potentially I could do something that could help. And I was very fortunate to be supported by a lot of psychologists and doctors and people like that I could draw upon from university. So that helped me develop a lot of the understanding that I maybe lacked before around dementia and how it affects people. But really just spending a lot of time there really is probably what gave me the most insights.
It had to be interesting to people that you were willing as a college student to move in to the care home.
Yeah, well, I would go and visit basically and just sit with grandma and speak to the staff and speak to the other residents and other residents' families and you know, carers and things like that. And you know, I really enjoyed my time there, and I'm very grateful I got the opportunity to spend that time with Grandma as well. But it was only through those experiences that I guess some of the key thoughts around the product really came out. So, you know, I saw a lot of the challenges firsthand that people would face, perhaps pouring their drinks away or putting food in their drinks, or just not really comprehending what it was that they were looking at. But it also gave me a lot of the insights that helped. So, you know, generally when I go and visit the care home, most of the residents would ignore me, which is fine. But if I came with sweets or chocolates, then suddenly everyone wanted to have a conversation and take a handful. So that was part of what led me to think, well, if I could make these hydrating, then people could just hydrate themselves, and you tend to get a lot more enthusiasm when giving out sweets.
Interesting. So you saw them pushing their cups away or putting food in their water, just not understanding, and you put the connection that they like candy.
Yeah. I think there's a few things in care homes that I initially saw that seemed to sort of cut through, and dementia affects people in all different ways, but music was one of them. You know, people I'd never perhaps heard speak before, you play some music and they were suddenly singing along and really animated. For my grandma, a teddy that my uncle had brought her was another one. No matter how she was feeling, you get this teddy out and she'd always sort of hug it and everything was sort of fine again. So I wanted to look for something that could be a vehicle for hydration that had that same sort of universal, consistent enthusiasm, and sweets seemed to be that. So
Okay, so how could I get them to light up, like when they see a teddy bear, or light up when their music is on? How can I have something make them light up when it comes to taking in hydration?
exactly. Yeah.
And so what went wrong with that?
Well, I tried lots of different things to start with. You know, food in general it seems easier to get people to engage with over hydration, but still there are challenges. You know, people have different tastes and preferences, and often you need cutlery, a knife and fork, or a spoon, and that can also be, you know, somewhat confusing. It's much more intuitive, I found, to have a finger food. So I started looking at finger foods to start with, but there were still challenges there. You know, the engagement wasn't always there. I looked at sort of cucumbers and things that had high water content, and you know, I'd cut it up in different shapes and leave them out. But you know, it wasn't often that Grandma would really reach for them. I would come back and, you know, an hour later, 2 hours later, and they were still there. I also, when I was developing the formulation, I would try different formats. So bento boxes, you know, sushi style, but again, it wasn't perhaps that recognizable. It wasn't really met with excitement.
Not very many grandparents or great-grandparents like sushi.
No, yeah.
Good idea for those that are a little bit younger coming up. Maybe you could try sushi on us.
You know, I think maybe the format can evolve over time, but I didn't quite get the same sort of enthusiasm that I was hoping for. Also tried things like flashing coasters to help prompt and remind.
Like blinking coasters?
Yeah, so just sporadically like blink just to remind you it was there.
Okay, I'm here, drink this.
Yeah.
And what kind of reaction did you get from that?
Well, I think for some people, perhaps if you're just forgetting your drink there, then that's useful. But if you know, are struggling with the dexterity to pick the cup up, or you know, lose the ability to sort of recognize what a cup is, then I found, at least with Grandma, that wasn't always translating to sort of her reaching for the glass to pick it up. So I wanted something that was more intuitive and engaging, and something that, you know, really people just want to interact with regardless of the hydration. You know, the hydration is almost like a byproduct. And yeah, I developed essentially this tray of sweets. There's a lot of thought that went into how that was presented. So I realized that whilst people were very excited to eat a box of chocolates, often the chocolates were depressed in the tray, and the chocolates themselves are often brown in a black tray, for example. So the contrast was quite poor. People would struggle to get their fingers in. So I made jelly drops bright colours. They protruded from the tray. Now they're in these little cups, which you can easily pluck them out of the cup.
It looks like a little pudding cup or something.
Yeah, exactly. So it's much more, you know, visually engaging. When you open them, the smell is quite strong, so it really engages more of the senses to entice you to eat it.
Eat this.
Yeah, exactly. And the different flavors and colors help with appetite as well. So you know, you don't get bored of just eating the same flavor all the time. So I developed the initial prototype of that at university in the workshops, and presented this tray to my grandma. and she immediately recognised it as a box of sweets, essentially.
Yum.
And she picked up the tray from me. She ate 7 drops in the first 10 minutes. She went to pass them round to share them, and she soon wanted them back. But in that 10-minute period, she drunk what would have taken me hours of sitting with her, just the equivalent in the hydration. So it was amazing to see her engage so readily and sort of enthusiastically with the format. And I took a little video of that clip and I put it online for competition. And within a few weeks, people had taken that submission, put it on Facebook and things like that, and it had over 100 million views. And I was getting emails from all around the world. And at that point, I was still making it in my student kitchen just for Grandma. So I had to sort of scale up pretty fast after that.
Were you shocked that video went global like that? 100 million views. Did you expect anything like that?
No, I just submitted for this competition. I think, I really, didn't expect that response. I suppose, unfortunately, again, it's such a universal problem. There's 50 million people around the world living with dementia, and hydration is, can be a huge issue for people. I think that, coupled with the fact the concept's so simple, it's just it's sweets that hydrate you. It seems obvious in a way, like the people. My mum or dad would like that. So I think the simplicity of it and the sort of nature of the issue that it's tackling sort of meant that a lot of people resonated with that story, I suppose.
It sounds like it took a lot of work to make it turn out to be so simple.
Well, yeah.
But it just makes so much sense.
Yeah, I think the initial project was 6 months, and a lot of those insights were gained from spending time in Grandma's care home. But after that, it took another 18 months to work with people, a lot smarter than me in food science and things like that, building a great team of co-founders. And through that process, we developed a market-ready product that had the 95% water, electrolytes. Now it's got vitamins, which is a more recent addition.
Vitamins?
Vitamins, yeah. B12, B9, and B6. And again, that's come from almost like crowdsourcing beyond, my initial interaction with Grandma from all of our customers, and we're very fortunate to have a very engaged community. We have our own R&D facility that we look to push and innovate through all the time. So almost every aspect of the product has changed since we launched because we've been responsive to people's feedback. But now it's just really developed into what it is today.
So how much do you think Grandma Pat knew that you were behind these yummy things, and how much did she get to see or be a part of before she passed away? When did she pass?
So Grandma Pat passed away in 2020 during early stages of COVID, unfortunately, and we didn't launch publicly until the summer of 2020 in the UK. But I did visit often in the development phase, taking new prototypes. How much Grandma was aware that she was sort of famous, I'm not too sure, but I think she just appreciated me showing up and bringing some sweets, really. So it was great to sort of see her enjoy them, and since then sort of see hundreds of thousands of other people enjoy them and share very similar stories to how it started.
Yeah, that's one of the aspects I really loved about your story. It's just like a sweet grandson wanting to do something for his grandma, and mixing in your university studies with, I want to give back to Grandma Pat. And so how old were you? What year was this when you started this, and how old were you?
It was 2018, and I was 23.
23. And now you're like set on this mission to go out and help people. And so the second part that I love about the story is that sweet Grandma Pat really wasn't even aware that she was creating a legacy in you that would live on for decades beyond her. And I think that's so intriguing to me, that dementia patients sometimes are impacting a young person and setting them on their life's mission, and they have no idea.
Yeah, I think that's probably quite common in people's. I guess a lot of people that go into whatever career they're in maybe are influenced heavily by their parents or grandparents. So I think a lot of people that do end up in the care space are inspired to do so through personal experience, it seems. And it's incredible going to conferences like the one in Orlando and meeting so many fantastic people looking to improve the lives of older people. How many are inspired by their own personal circumstances? So it's a very sort of compassionate environment to sort of operate, work in. And I feel very grateful to meet a lot of fantastic people doing similar things.
So like families that have dealt with this, professionals that are dealing with it, they recognize that this is something useful. and that you can have some eye contact and smiles and engagement over snacking on chocolates or treats or jelly drops, and these at the same time are providing hydration, and so they're good for anybody to take. But
so they're sugar-free, vegan, gluten-free, but I think the social part that you sort of touched on is a really important aspect of it. I'd go and visit my grandma, and language wasn't always there. She wasn't able to perhaps articulate herself. We couldn't have a conversation, but we could share a moment, and having a social prop to sort of have that over was really valuable. It was for old photos, or it might have been pictures of puppies and kittens and things like that, but also sweets. They also fit that bill. They don't look out of place anywhere. You could be in someone's bedroom or the lounge or out and about, and sharing that moment also encourages them to engage with the product. But yeah, it really sort of makes it a lot richer.
So did you give your grandmother any early prototypes that she didn't like? Did you ever get a negative reaction from her?
Not so much in terms of the flavour and stuff. I think generally she liked them. I think quite often she would just enjoy the fact that we were sharing some sweets together. So I'd say generally not, but it was great to sort of have that opportunity to spend a lot more time with her.
It's really fascinating to me what you did because of her. And where has this been leading you? Of course, you've come to the United States. Where else have you gone? What kind of journey did this start for you?
Yeah, well, I think from that initial press, the 100 million views, I had 50,000 people email me. 30,000 of those were from the US, so we've already had fantastic support from the US, and we've been keen to make the product available and get it into the hands of people that need it the most as soon as possible. So we launched in the US soon after launching in the UK. We've since launched in Canada, but yeah, as you say, that it has been global, the response, and the challenge is global as well. So we're looking to bring it to new people or new countries all the time.
I just think it's so neat that your grandma is causing all these things to happen. And so I just think it's a tremendous legacy to her. And I want to encourage grandparents that are watching that the impact that you can have on younger generations is immense. And then I had someone respond to something that I put out there about, well, it's sugar-free, and they thought maybe it should have real sugar. Why does it not have real sugar in it?
Yeah, I guess there's a few reasons why it doesn't have sugar in it. I suppose one is it's 95% water. You wouldn't be able to have it be 95% water and sweetened with sugar, because sugar takes up a large portion of a sweet product, essentially.
So the mass of the sugar would make it impossible.
Like 50% perhaps, but it would just be, you wouldn't be able to have it as hydrating as it is. But also, oral hygiene is a key consideration for people living with dementia. My mum was a dentist, so it would have been her worst nightmare if I'd started a sweet company with sugar in it. So obviously it's a big source of tooth decay and issues around that. So if people aren't necessarily looking after their oral hygiene as well as they perhaps have in the past, then sweet products, eating sweet products continuously could contribute to tooth decay, which results in pain, and someone with dementia couldn't necessarily tell you where that pain is coming from.
They can't tell you where the pain is or what tooth it is.
Yeah.
And it's 95% water, so there's not that much of anything else in it.
Exactly. So it allows it to be as hydrating as possible, but also mitigates some of the negative effects that you get from sugar.
As a little boy, were you creating things and trying to figure things out? Did you think you'd become an inventor?
I guess I didn't really think I was a job, but yeah, I was often sort of drawing and painting and Lego, I guess, all the sort of classic things. But yeah, I mean, I didn't expect to end up here when I started university, but yeah, it's been an incredible journey.
But you're a real problem solver, and so this solves a lot of problems for people. What other problems do you see in the senior industry that you're thinking about addressing?
Well, I think other than hydration and just raising awareness of hydration issues, other than the product itself, also nutrition, often they go hand in hand, and we've since added vitamins to support with cognition, the immune system, but looking to potentially add even more nutritional benefit through the format or separate format entirely. And
so did I see you have a connection with One Meals on Wheels at least? Where's that at?
Yeah, so we've been very fortunate to be in contact with Meals on Wheels. I think most of our customers at the moment are people buying it for a loved one, but by partnering with organisations like Meals on Wheels and others in the US, AAAs, it'd be fantastic to really get the product out there to really people that need it the most, and work with organisations that have a similar mission to ours. So we're really looking forward to sort of continuing those conversations.
It makes sense to deliver that with food, and that this is just a sweet treat they can enjoy anytime, and it is providing them some hydration and health benefits. So
Exactly.
great. So it sounds like you've got your work cut out for you.
Yeah, no, it's been busy 7 years or so, but I feel incredibly grateful to be doing what I'm doing, and it really makes it all the more worthwhile when you sort of see everyone's feedback and the stories that people share, and I see people in a similar situation to Grandma and how it's helped them. So I'm very, very lucky.
We're very lucky to have you at 30 years of age with all of this experience already, and no telling what else you might do to empower seniors. So thank you for your work. Thank you for coming to Kansas and being on this show.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching. If you have questions about this topic or any of the topics that we cover, reach out to us at empoweringseniors@kpts.org or give us a ring at 316-686-4500. I'm Katherine Ambrose, and I'll see you on the next Empowering Seniors.